everyone, and for today I'm going to discuss to you how to get started with Photoshop, how to navigate around the software and create your first project using Adobe Photoshop. Now, Adobe Photoshop is one of the classic softwares produced by Adobe Company. Now, Adobe, as of present, they have a lot of different software tools that you could use for creating multimedia outputs. However, Photoshop will still remain as a classic. Okay, so aside from that, Photoshop, in regards to the usage of Photoshop, this one has some counterpart or free source counterparts such as GIMP or Photopeia. So I'm going to show you what are the free alternatives that you could use for Photoshop if you cannot afford to pay for a Photoshop license at the moment. So all you have to do is to type in Photopeia and you'll be redirected to this one. So Photopeia is a open source software in which it has the same or similar graphical user interface as Photoshop. The only difference is that you could use it via browser, and there are some components that are missing. So you could create PSD templates and so on. And the pre-source counterpart of Photoshop would be GIMP. So when we say pre-source, it's a free type of software that we could use, like this one. So actually, when I was starting out with Photoshop, I first started with GIMP or GIMP because I cannot acquire Photoshop for free or I don't have enough to have a licensed one. Now, the version that I am using is Adobe Photoshop CC 2019. So if you're using older versions or the most latest version, there might be some slight changes in regards to the color of the graphical user interface, but the classic features will still be retained. Okay, so now I'm going to discuss the basic components inside the Photoshop interface. So Photoshop makes use of shortcut keys, so I hope you don't mind if I'm switching back and forth to my internet browser. So we have what we call a Photoshop shortcut keys, because again, Photoshop supports command line interface and GUI, our graphical user interface. So we have a lot of shortcut keys na you could memorize or you could use, so you could easily navigate around Photoshop, like this one. So the differences with shortcut keys is that it varies. The shortcut keys for a window-based operating system versus the Photoshop shortcut key for a Mac operating system varies. So that will watch out for those difference between the two. So here are the shortcut keys. We have a lot of shortcut keys. Some Photoshop experts tends to memorize this one, but it's okay if you do not memorize all of the shortcut keys. Now going back to Photoshop, so let's start. I'm gonna start discussing with the menus on the top left of my screen. So you could see we have File, Edit, Image, Layer, Type, Select, Filter, 3D, View, Window, and Help on our flat list menu. So these are the common menus in which you could find the most basic functions or main functions here in Photoshop. And then on my right side, you would see this is mainly where your layers and actions will be located. And this rectangular box that you see here with bunch of icons are the tool preset. So you could, if you click the small arrow pointing downward, it will present you with other options other than the tool. So this is the move tool. This is the default display tool, but you can change it to artboard tool. Now if you want to change it back, you could just click the downward arrow and go back to that tool. As you can see, as I click each of the tools in the tool preset, the second upper part on the screen changes. That's because this is the properties of each of the tool that you're clicking. So by properties, I meant that you could change the settings according to your liking. For example, is I'm going to use the pen tool. So we have here, we could create a path using pen tool. We could create shapes or pixel. So I often use path if I want to trace something using pen tool, and I use shape if I wanted to do vector inside using pen tool. Now as you could see, we are presented with options like mask, shapes, and so on. And the blank space that you see here, class, would be your workspace. This is this area or the space where you be working your project. Now we have a lot of things missing before we could start setting up our Photoshop. Now I'm gonna head over to window and make sure that the layers or the elements that I needed are present or are in place. The indication are based on the check on the left side of the screen. Now for example, I were to uncheck layers and you could see the layer portion would be gone. If I wanted to return this, I'm just gonna check layers and you should see the layer option. So that would be the first thing that you should do if ever you were to open your Photoshop and you find your tool present missing, your layer present. You always head over, or you should always head over to the Windows tab and make sure that it is checked. If it is not checked, it means that you have to check it for it to be shown. So this is our workspace. You could start on your project just by clicking Windows and choosing Workspace and just clicking Untitled 1. Okay. We choose, or in creating your first Photoshop project, we are presented with two steps. First is to click the file and click New. When clicking New, we could change the name for My First Photoshop. And then you could choose from its default sizes. US paper size has a default size of 8.5 inch and then 11 inches with a resolution of 300. But you could change it to international paper, for web format, and so on. Now, if the default document types are not suited to your liking, you could choose custom. You could decide on the size of your workspace, and then you could also decide on the background color or the color of your workspace that you want to work on. And then you could choose the resolution. Usually for resolution, I either choose 72 or 300. So let's say that you want to 300. So you could choose if you wanted to be in measurement of pixels, inches, centimeters, millimeters, picas, and column. The most common measurement that I often observe that the creators or Photoshop user makes use of would be in inches or pixels. Okay, once that you are satisfied with the size of your workspace and the settings that you have made, you could click OK. And you now have your very own first workspace. And this is the layer. This is the thumbnail presentation of that workspace. Now, how to add Ma'am, can I add multiple layers inside my Photoshop? Yes, you would. Just look at the left side of the screen on the lower part. So this trash can that you see here, it deletes a layer. So if I click it, it will delete the layer that we have done. And this one creates a new layer. If I hover my mouse, you could see its function. And then this one lets you categorize or group your layers into a single folder. This is grouping layers in a folder is very much advisable, especially if you're working on with multiple layers. Usually I do this if I were to do vectors, so that I could easily locate, or I could easily categorize or index the layer elements per category. And then additional or miscellaneous functionalities could be found here. So if I double click this one, you'll be redirected to the blending options. Now, this is the part that I'm going to introduce later as we progress with the introduction of creating a text manipulation. So, I'm just gonna pause this video stay tuned onto my next one. I'm going to teach you how to upload a brush, a texture, and a pattern, and even an action inside your Photoshop. So, in uploading brushes and patterns and textures, you could just head over your mouse on the top left part of your screen, and click Edit. And then look for the presets. And then click Preset Manager or Preset Manager, and then you select what type of preset or preset you want to upload. So from here, you could upload brushes, swatches, gradients, styles, patterns, contours, custom shapes, and other tools. Now, for in uploading brushes, click Brushes, and then click Load. And then head over to the file where your brush is located. So the brush extension is always .abr. Now, if you don't have any brush extension available, then you cannot load it. So, for example, I have a brush or .avr file here. I click the icon and then click Load. And it will automatically be added in your brush inventory. Next is, let us look for the pattern. So here are my default patterns installed on my Photoshop. Now, if I wanted to add more patterns so I could work out with more types of outputs, all I have to do is to click Load again. And then look for the folder where you're going to download your pattern. So it should have a .pat extension. If it doesn't have one, it will not appear on your screen. Close. And this is the contour part. Click Load, click Download, and you see how the contour appears because it matched the file extension. So it has a file extension of .shc. So again, we click that contour, and then it will be put out in the placeholder for file name, and then just click Load, and you'll see that it will be added on your contour or collection of contours. Once that you have uploaded a brush, a swatch, a gradient, or some of the preset type available here, you can click it as done. And if you were to load it, it will be automatically uploaded or added into your inventory of brushes, contour, and so on. Next is the text part. So how are we going to add a custom text? Now, the first thing you need to do is to download a text. Now, different types of text usually ends with .tf or .otf. Now, text class can be downloaded for free or with a license fee. So I usually download it for free in Squirrel Fonts or free fonts or thefont.com. So for this particular type, since we're going to create a foil balloon text, I need a type of font type that is a little bit round that has soft edges and is overall round. So I'm gonna choose Oduda. And just click download. And show folder. Extract your files. Okay, I'm just gonna put it here because I cannot locate it. And the extracted file should look like this. What you have to do is to press CTRL first, and then C, and then you type it on your Windows browser fonts. Click open and wait for it to load. You are given an option to either drag or just click CTRL-F. Again, this step might vary slightly depending on the operating system that you are using and the operating version that you have. So I'm just gonna drag this font in this box. As you can see, it is already installed. I have previously installed it before, so yes, I will replace it for the sake of demonstrating this one. And if you were to search if that font is successfully uploaded, then you could see. Anyway, in regards to font installation, why does it differs from the rest? Because the font text that we just uploaded could be widely accessible not just for Adobe Photoshop but across different softwares like Microsoft Office, PowerPoint, and so on. So they could still be accessible, or the Oduda font will be accessible for other platforms as well. So now that you have uploaded the text, it will be available on the range of text, wide range of text choices in your Photoshop. The last part would be how to upload or how to add an action. So you clicked on the Windows section or on your upper part of the screen and select Actions. As you can see, I already have a pre-installed actions on my Photoshop. So we have default actions here. So how do we upload actions? Actually, you could create actions. So actions, by using actions, it will automate some of the tedious process inside the Photoshop, and it works like magic. So it's gone missing. Just click actions again. And you click the layer here. And you choose load actions. And then it has a file extension of .atn. If you have a action file on this one, just click it and then click load, and it will automatically be added on your list of actions. And how to use action, just click it and press play, and it will give you directions on how it will be applied to your output. So there are some requirements when uploading or adding actions. And that's all for my discussion in navigating around Photoshop.